And welcome to the Postmodern Art Podcast, the podcast dedicated to giving artists who are wowing the world over the platform they deserve. I'm your host, Aiden Ragland, and for today's episode, come on in and make yourself at home, whether it be a beautiful mansion or a dark, decrepit cave, as we talk to a fantastic animator doing an amazing job. Today's guest is Travis Fowler, an animator who, on top of working on several sensational programs, has led the charge on the imaginative indie animated series Dungeon Flippers. Dungeon Flippers was something that came across my radar one indie animation day, and so for today's indie animation day, I had to bring on this guest considering the fact that this was a show that I was hyped and excited about, and seeing the pilot, you'll see that excitement soon enough as we get into this fantastic conversation. If you enjoyed Travis, please make sure you support him with the links down in the description below. I see that the merch shop that he has is absolutely fantastic. Speaking of merch shops, if you want, we have a fantastic merch shop of our own on fourthwall.com. Link to that in the description below. We have several fantastic designs done by some amazing artists that you would look sensational in today. And as always, please make sure you like, share, subscribe, or follow whatever audio streaming platform you prefer. Leave 5 stars wherever you can. You know I see that stuff and you know it genuinely warms my heart. Speaking of subscribe, as you guys know, I have been making a push for you guys to get me to 2,500 subscribers so that I could be inked up for the first time, as voted by you, the audience, of what design I shall get. And we recently crossed the 1,800 subscribers threshold, 1,800 subscribers. So thank you guys for getting me to that point. But if you want to get to the point to where I have to get a tattoo with the design as voted by you, the community, the audience, please make sure you subscribe. Tell other people about the podcast and have them subscribe as well. But now, without further ado, please enjoy the Postmodern Art Podcast. Beautiful.
Very cool. I got the shirt on.
Of course I got the shirt on, all right? Hey, there you go.
hey, merch. Merch respects merch.
Yeah. No, like, definitely merch respects merch. People should definitely be buying the merch.
right. Plug. How's it going?
It's going well. How about yourself?
Doing good. Yeah.
Thank you so much for doing this, by the way. I really do appreciate you taking the time to do this.
Yeah, no problem. Like I enjoy talking about things that I make. I'm glad to be on here. I've been following y'all for a while, so
I appreciate that. I'm gonna go ahead and give this heads up. So I am already recording the podcast. Like I do it to sync up like my audio or whatnot, and I was gonna include, if it's cool with you, I was gonna include like bits of this like little intro thing, sound check thing into the podcast.
Totally. Some good ad-lib bits. Yes.
Exactly. But I also want to make sure to include this bit just in case, because I'm planning on releasing this episode on Indie Animation Day, which is August 16th, if I remember correctly.
Okay.
And the thing that I'm concerned about that is, I believe around that same time is when the animators, the Animation Guild, like that, the strike should be going on at the same time, or at least like around that same time. So I'm mainly doing this for the podcast thing, and if it doesn't happen when it happens or whatnot, this is clearly recorded July 13th, before the animation strike happens. So any of the things that we talk about when it comes to some of your previous work or whatnot should not conflict with any of the stuff, depending on how they have their standards or what's set up for how people in the Animation Guild strike. So
totally.
Yeah.
And I guess yeah. And if it's any help too, like I'm non-union, so I don't even understand what most of the striking stuff's about.
Oh, you're non-union. Okay, so that makes this a little bit easier for me. I just
look at them and I'm like, good on you. And I'm like, I don't know. Yeah. Y'all are getting paid?
Because I saw like all the stuff you've had a hand in and whatnot, and I figured like you had to be union or at least close to it or at least relatively part of it.
Nah, we're the exception.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, if that's the case, because in fact that makes it a lot easier to talk about certain things. But regardless, hey, we're standing in solidarity with the Animation Guild.
Yes.
I now feel bad because it's like, all right, I'm playing all this stuff. I know you're talking about stuff. I don't know what we can't talk about or whatnot. And then you just drop that, oh yeah, I'm non-union. I'm like, so that makes it a little easier.
Yeah. Barely know the meaning of the word, unfortunately. So, no, yeah. whatever's on the table is on the table.
Okay, good. I mean, there's actually a good bit of stuff I did want to talk about, like just looking through your like filmography or whatnot, or at least your
Yeah,
IMDb. I was surprised with some of the opportunities you've had. It's like it's really cool some of the shows you've had a chance to work on, and then on top of that, going out of your way to create such an incredible little concept, a
uh,
little show. Like that's why I wanted to bring you on at some point.
yes, totally. No, yeah, I think granted, I don't know the extensive histories of all the indie creators, but no, yeah, like I'm definitely like from the bottom up kind of approach at making a cartoon about like being a non-union animator for so long and then trying to like make it as opposed to like story books or like hobbyists and stuff. So a different route than some take.
I mean, I'm pretty sure that I've talked to a lot of indie animators on all sorts of
Hmm.
different fronts on this podcast or whatnot, and there are some that like obviously they've got their work in the industry before, like trying to do their
Yeah.
own thing or whatnot, and there's some that have had no experience whatsoever, but just wanted to go forth and make their own indie animation project or whatnot. Like, there's a wide wealth of different
Hmm.
opportunities on how to get to the point that you're at right now.
Yeah. It's a place with many doors, many entrances in the animation.
Life opens many doors, Travis boy.
Many doors, yes.
Many doors, yes. Oh goodness. But regardless, like seriously, thank you for taking the time to do this because I know I've gushed about your project enough when it comes to the podcast itself, but like getting the chance
Oh.
to
And I mean,
see
you're one of the OG backers too.
that is true, which I hey, I take that with a badge of honor. But regardless, like, I loved the concept when you first pitched it. I loved the pilot when it finally dropped. I have been excited for this thing and now I'm excited to get a chance to finally talk to you about it. So
Thank you.
all right, Travis, before we really get going, I must ask the icebreaker question of the podcast, if I may.
Go ahead.
Let's say you get to go to a desert island on your own accords. It's just you alone with your thoughts. You get to kick back, relax, breathe, and truly
Mm.
enjoy yourself for a little bit. With accommodations, you're not stranded on a desert island. It's a little
Oh,
island
good.
paradise B&B away from
Nice.
society.
There is a bathroom there.
There is a bathroom, there is plumbing, there is amenities and stuff. You're good. You're safe. It's just a little
Very good.
transparent. But to make sure you don't go fully insane on this island, you could bring one piece of media or one piece of art with you to help with whatever kind of headspace you want on this island. If given this
Ooh,
opportunity, what would that one piece be?
that would probably be a Game Boy Color copy of Link's Awakening, I'd say.
Ooh, okay. Elaborate. Why is that the thing that you jump to? Why is that like the comfort thing
Well,
for you?
it's funny because on just a purely like objective scale, I'm like it's a small handheld Zelda game. Like it's not even my favorite Zelda game. It's very mid in the range for me. But like I keep whenever I'm like kind of in a zone or in a funk or any kind of like just needing a space, like that game just provides the perfect level of like, well, I can play this. It's a short game. It's fun. This thing about it, it just hits that right spot of like satisfyingly occupying my time mildly.
I mean that is true, especially for a game like that, especially like the Game Boy Color edition or whatnot.
Hmm.
Like
Yeah,
you
yeah.
you could have gone with like the original, like you gone with like an
Yeah,
N64
the
version.
Game Boy version with its
But
two or three colors.
exactly. But regardless, the Game Boy Color version of Link's Awakening. That is your answer. You're locking that in.
Yes.
Then if that's the case, I cannot think of a better way to start the Postmodern Art Podcast. Welcome everyone, I am your host Nathan Ragland. Feel free to like, share, subscribe, or follow whatever audio streaming platform you prefer. You would look fantastic in the merch that we have at the merch shop, fourthwall.com. Link to that will be in the description below. And follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Blue Sky, and TikTok at Postmod Art Pod for future updates and guest announcements, including today's guest. He is an animator who, on top of working on several sensational programs, has led the charge on the imaginative indie animated series Dungeon Flippers. Welcome to the podcast, Travis Fowler!
Yay. Fantastic lead in.
I try to make sure that I give my guests the proper introduction that I think they deserve.
Nice. I feel like I need my wrestling entrance theme to play as I like
That's
throw it out.
that's the exact mentality I have with these things. Make it
Yes.
seem like a
Gets
wrestling
me
thing.
hyped. Love it.
Speaking of hyped, how are you doing today, Travis?
Doing fantastic. Doing fantastic. I
Good.
know it's a nice sunny day here where I live, and it's Saturday, so I don't have to do much. So
That's
except for
good.
this, and I'm excited about it.
Good. I'm glad you're excited about this. And trust me, considering the fact that if I remember correctly, we're both in the same state, so I know how sunny it is, around where
Yes.
you are.
We had some rain. The rain's gone. It's cooled things off, and now it's sunny. It's it's okay for a July day.
It'll be good for now, but I'll tell you right now, consider if I have my AC off. Give me like an hour into the podcast, I'm gonna be sweating like a maniac. But
Yeah.
regardless, like I'm glad you're excited for this. I have been excited to talk to you for a while, ever since I first heard about Dungeon Flippers. I mean, the
Mm.
concept alone is absolutely amazing, and I cannot wait to divulge into what you have to present with that and so much more. But before we talk about that, I want to go back just a little bit and learn more or less the origin story of Travis. What got you
Yes.
interested in art and animation in the first place?
Ooh, origin stories. So long ago. Um, let's see. No, I think a lot of it, I've always loved cartoons. I remember even like as a child, like my more studious family friends were like, you can't get a job just by watching cartoons all day. Which there are some who do. I guess I don't technically, but I always have loved cartoons and watching animation particularly. And it wasn't until around late middle school, early high school that I actually started drawing.
Okay.
Uh, the old how to draw manga books that they would sell in scholastic book fairs and whatnot. Because I was a big manga fan and anime fan. That awakening happened, late middle school, early high school. So I got into drawing comics and stuff, and that eventually kind of segued into to animation.
Okay, that's fair enough. Just out of curiosity, I know you said like, you were a fan of animation growing up or whatnot.
Hmm.
You had your you were the fans of like manga and stuff like that. What were some of those
Hmm.
early animation and manga that really like grabbed your attention like starting out?
Ooh, let's see. Well, I know, like, those 90s kid. So, like, having those 90s Disney movies, particularly, like, I think
Yes.
Aladdin is still probably my favorite overall,
Okay, okay.
which I watched a lot. So a lot of those. I was also a big like Nickelodeon kid growing up, so all the shows like Doug, Hey Arnold, Rugrats, all those things growing up. And then into more of my like adolescence, we had basically everything that was on Toonami back in the day. So like you had your Dragon Balls, Dragon Ball Z's, and other shows. Rurouni Kenshin was a big inspiration for me at the time. Um, so yeah, like a fair swath. It basically back in those days, the early aughts, and I mean, yeah, the cartoon shows, heavens, huge influence. I'm about to say I missed a whole heckin' wing of the beast. But yeah, like I was, if there was a cartoon around in the '90s and early 2000s, I had watched it extensively.
I mean, look, let's be honest with ourselves here. Like you said, growing up in the '90s, we were kind of, I was born in '96, but I still experienced a lot of those '90s cartoons. We were
Yeah,
spoiled growing up with some of the amazing
yeah,
cartoons that we were exposed to early on.
yeah. No, totally. Like there was so much stuff out there. It was great. Loved it.
I so I know you said kind of in middle school is when you started to really get into drawing and stuff like that. When did it
Hmm.
go from this like general love and appreciation for art and animation and stuff to a passion and truly wanting to make it your career?
Ooh, I know. Like trying to think specifically. I know like there are some manga particularly about making art your career, like Bakuman is a manga about becoming a professional manga writer. But I didn't read those until I was probably into art school by that
Okay.
point. I feel like I think it is just that shonen anime drive of like I want to be the very best like no one ever was, or to be the next Hokage or the king of the pirates. That when I started like loving making comics and telling stories through drawing is like there was that spark of like this will be my thing. I will make this great show and it will be great.
Okay.
Somehow. So that kind of childhood shonen drive dream of being good at something.
I mean, hey, that drive always comes from somewhere, especially with, like you said, that exposure to some of those
Hmm.
mangas and animes that really reinforce that. Really does help. Do you remember some of
Yeah.
those early like comics or whatnot that you remember drawing that really like drew you to that point, like really made you be like,
Yeah.
I can actually do this?
Right. No, yeah, like because my first ones were just on like the college lined notebook paper that I would draw in pencil
Right.
and cringingly bad anime drawings, of course. But I do my little fight scene. But you do a page and it's like, oh, okay, but then you do the next page and you keep the story going. And even if it's the most terrible art possible, when the characters start moving around and doing stuff and having moments like it's like, oh wait, this is something now. This was just a bad anime drawing. Now it's a bad anime drawing with a story to tell and like interesting like moments and arcs and stuff.
I mean, we all gotta get that start somewhere. You say bad anime drawing, but like you said, there's a story there. There's
Yeah,
creativity ready to flow and burst out of the seams.
yeah.
So again, like the art when it comes to the comics and such really became
Hmm.
like a really strong force for you, I should say. So when
Hmm.
did you realize that you could actually be a part of like the animation aspect of it? Like when did that moment kind of click of like I can make like these cool comics or whatnot, but I could also be an animator? Wait, hold on. How do I
Mm,
do this?
right, right. I know, like, granted, either through my own, I don't know, I blame it on growing up in rural Arkansas. There wasn't a lot of, and I missed my lack of research. I didn't have a whole lot of opportunities in my younger days with these kids now and their newfangled internet. Uh, so in some ways, like I know that I wanted to work in cartoons and or comics, either one, and but I didn't really know exactly how professionally that would be done. I just knew like if I got really good at it, of course, obviously I would make it somehow.
Right.
But the specifics and the paths I didn't know until much later. Um, I know like eventually it was probably not until I was like 20 where I was like
Okay.
doing a graphic design major in my local like Arkansas college. That was like I probably need to like go to a school where they teach animation or like try to seek out like connections or something. So in many ways I kind of got a later start than a lot of folks do now. Comparatively, and even then, like, yeah, I didn't know about like CalArts or STAD or any of these other like big schools until I was like halfway through a degree.
Right.
I was like, wait, there are schools that actually like do this thing. I didn't know. Career counseling in my high school, non-existent.
Look, I was gonna say I grew up around rural Georgia as well. So
Hmm.
I grew up in that place. I've said this many times before, but I grew up in a place. I went to high school, a place to where if you were in the FFA, the Future Farmers of America, you were one of the
Hmm.
weird ones. I was one of the weird ones. So
Yeah, yeah.
like go all through high school, like I wasn't 100% sure what exactly I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to do something with like entertainment aspect in one way or another. I thought I was gonna be
Hmm.
like a sports broadcaster or something like that because I'm
Oh,
a
yeah,
big because I'm a fairly decent, I
yeah.
like sports and such. It
Nice.
wasn't until I actually got to college in South Georgia and became a part of a group known as the Film and Video Society to where it clicked in my head,
Mm.
oh wait, I can actually make films and such. Wait, hold on, time out.
Yeah.
So I understand where you're coming from with that kind of that late start, really getting invested and finding out how exactly to go along that path and going full force with it. I can only imagine once you
Hmm.
figured it out and once you kind of set yourself on that path, it must have been almost like partially a weight off your shoulder, being like, "This is what I want to do. This is how I'm gonna be an anime. I can actually do this
Yes.
thing."
Yes. It's like I see the path now. I can follow this path where I want to go. Yes.
Is that how you eventually made your way to Georgia? Like, was it one of the colleges around here that got you to go on that path?
It was definitely there was a trajectory. I went to art school in Memphis. I went to the
Okay.
Memphis College of Art because closer. It was like 3 hours away from my Arkansas origin point. And they had an animation program there, which I studied for a bit. And yeah, shortly after I graduated was really when a lot of the Atlanta-based studios were kind of ramping up. Like Floyd County was really kind of in the heat of Archer, and Bento Box was kind of kicking off a few new ventures and stuff. So like it was kind of a good time to coincidental. There's so much luck and timing involved with these
Yeah.
things, but like that time was kind of a good time to get started in the Atlanta animation industry. So it was just a little hop to Memphis, then a little hop or bigger hop to Atlanta.
Yeah, I was gonna say because I know like whenever I went to college, one of the big things that they were emphasizing was that the entertainment industry was really growing in Georgia, mainly because of like tax
Hmm.
incentives and all that this other kind of
Yeah.
stuff that entices studios to come to Georgia and actually make their stuff here. I mean,
Hmm.
I'm sure people could tell you. Yeah, I'm sure you've probably heard out there that a lot of like big studio productions like Marvel or whatnot, they'll do like their green screen stuff around here, around Georgia or whatnot. So
Yeah.
yeah, I can understand where that kind of like that moment of like luck kind of hits you and how you're able to
Hmm.
get to Atlanta and honestly really get started on some really cool like series and stuff like that and some productions like
Hmm.
I did not realize until I was doing more research into you and what you exactly done
Hmm.
some of the cool opportunities you've had, like for example, at least according to your IMDb, one of the first opportunities
Hmm.
you had was working on a show called The Awesomes.
Right. Yeah. The Seth MacFarlane or Seth
Seth
Meyers.
Meyers
Sorry,
Seth,
different
Seth
different Seth.
Meyers.
Seth Meyers, different Seth. Woo. But no, yeah, the Seth Meyers show. No, it was really interesting because it was one of that Bento Box Atlanta had done a few productions before them, but they were very kind of small, more kind of Adult Swim style shows, and
Okay.
in the more limited, more artsy kind of look to it. But this was the first, to my knowledge, like big like superhero. There's a lot of effects, a lot of characters, like a lot more and more action scenes. So it was kind of like a big deal when they got those shows. And yeah, I got to start off my I cut my teeth on season 2 of the Awesomes.
I was gonna say because I remember watching some of that whenever it was first coming out on Hulu. It's been a while since I've looked back
Hmm.
on it, but like,
Yeah.
especially with how interesting of a concept it was and how like fun it must have been to work with like some of the voice,
Hmm.
like to really bring some of
Yeah.
those characters to life more than anything else. It must have been like a cool opportunity, especially for you starting out, like really being
Yeah.
like, I can actually be a part of this field.
No, yeah, like it was really neat. Like I mean, in general, like that magic moment of pressing the playback button and seeing the things move around, but having that also being, people like Seth Meyers or Kel Mitchell or no, Keenan Thompson,
King
sorry,
Thompson.
Keenan Thompson, playing impresario, but like to see those characters like act and move and to be a part of that process, to like to be the person who moves and makes these characters do the other half of the acting. That's what you see.
Right.
Um, was a really neat opportunity.
It makes me almost like curious for a second because I didn't pick up on this when I was looking through your stuff. Do you have a preference on what part of the animation process you prefer to be mainly a part of? Like, what
Ooh.
is it like the keyframes in betweens?
Mhm.
Pre-production,
Right.
post-production. Like, what aspect of animation are you the most comfortable in?
Ooh, let's see. I think because I professionally I've mostly done like harmony rigged shows,
Okay.
like puppeted kinds of things. When I was first brought on to the Awesomes, I was an in-betweener, which is a little silly because like it's mostly put a motion tween on, put it on two, there it's done. Granted, there's a lot more like subtlety and finesse with it.
Right. Right.
Um, but that was how it was set up for that particular production. And I think on season 3, it was a little more free range, where we just like, here's your shot, you do the keys and you do the tweens, whatever. Um, Tweening, even though tweening with rig shows is often very like motion tween and then adjust, there is like there's something about timing and spacing and then like in betweening fingers and hands in a rigged show that can be very satisfying to do. It's also not the most difficult part, but it's that's satisfying to do. But I mean, most processes with animating with Harmony is a lot of fun. I enjoy making all the stuff. Keys, in betweens, it's all good.
Okay, okay. No, I get that vibe more than anything else. I can imagine, especially with some of the other experiences you had past, like the Awesome, because obviously that was a good stepping stone. But like some
Yeah.
of the other shows that I noticed that you had a hand in, or whatnot, was like Alien News Desk, Koala Man,
Mm,
Paradise PD.
right.
You apparently did animated segments for The Masked Singer, which is something that like took me back.
Yeah. That's right. That's right. It was such a weird thing because that was basically because COVID happened.
Oh, okay, there you go.
And yeah, and then the Masked Singer still had to get made somehow. They like used stock footage of crowd reactions, or like didn't like they had to do all the live action parts like with basically with a simulated audience and
Okay.
cut to B-rolls to like make it look like it was still that they could have people within 6 feet of each other. But then yeah, they asked Bento Box to make the animated segments for their like origin story clue packages.
Right, right.
And so that was really neat because it gave us a lot of stuff to do during a tough time, or like keeping it kept us busy during COVID. So that was very, very nice. And it was fun little segments to work on. Like the style for those segments are really neat.
Absolutely. I mean, I can imagine, especially for a show as unique as Mass Singer, with how they like to present their stuff, especially
Yeah.
with you being able to come in and do some of the cool stuff like that. I mean,
Hmm.
out of the experience that I've been able to mention, maybe even some that I haven't been able to mention so far, is there like a particular one that you remember like the most fondly, just because of like it was cool to be able to do something like this, or like it was incredible for you to see how you're able to bring something like that to life?
Ooh, yeah. There's, I think, two things coming to mind quickly. One was a show called Laser Wolf on Adult Swim.
Yes.
Yeah. Now, granted, like apparently on the production higher up standpoint, it was a rough time um, with them. But for the animation department, we had a lot more free range. So
Okay.
the board drawings we got were kind of loose, and it was a very minimal show. And we kind of just did whatever, like we were able to plus things and do weird stuff that like just test the waters. Like, oh, this character like takes a bite of something and says he doesn't like it? What if he like spits out food on another character's face? Like just kind of we kind of got a little to make more creative choices that usually, especially for like more primetime shows, we don't get any say on how
Right.
things get to happen. Like we could throw in a lot more jokes secretly.
I was gonna say
Uh,
I know with the show like I was aware of that show because I'm a big wrestling fan, so like WWE stuff like that.
yeah, I got the
And
Big E in
yeah,
there.
Big E was like the voice of the side character. I think
One
it
of
was
my favorites.
like what was it, Cannon Wolf or something like that. I forget exactly what his
Yeah,
character's name was, but yeah.
yeah. Yeah, so that show was a lot of fun. And another one that was fun to work on for me was season 2 of Harmon Quest,
Okay.
um, which was the Dan Harmon show where he plays Pathfinder with a few friends,
Right.
and then we cut between sections of him tabletop role playing and then animated segments of what the characters are doing. But that one was a lot of fun just because everything was improv or ad libbed. And to have these weird like I think one of my first shots that I really enjoyed was just like the characters reuniting and be like, I just want to like hold him and press him against me and then like slowly drag him up and like just doing these really weird like kind of ad-libbed segments in this fantasy thing was definitely like a such a fun like a fun little job to do.
I've certainly noticed, especially with some of the shows that you just mentioned right there, that you seem to have more like an affinity to like the fantasy, aspect of it.
This is true.
I know it'll definitely lead into the main thing that we're definitely going to talk about, but just like right
Mhm.
off the bat, what is it about like the fantasy setting that you like, that you love and appreciate and like want to like travel more into that world?
Yes. I know like there's of course the like aesthetic things. Love me some swords, love me some dungeons, love magical wizardy magicy things. I love legends and monsters and all those kinds of aesthetic things. And then also just there's that sense of adventure and like wonder and exploration that I feel like is so native to a lot of the fantasy genre that always keeps me crawling back.
Just when I think I'm just away from it, they bring me back into
Yeah,
it.
bring me back.
I mean, to be fair, like especially with the world of fantasy, there's so much to play
Mhm,
around with. There's so much to like toy with because it's literally
mhm.
it's fantasy. It's whatever you could think of could
Yeah,
potentially
whatever you
become
want.
brought to reality.
Yeah.
I,
Sounds
I,
good.
I mean, I could certainly tell, especially with like I said, some of those shows that I mentioned or whatnot. And I mean, like, there's a lot more that I didn't even get a chance to mention. Like, for example,
Mhm.
I imagined your first lead animator opportunity when it came to
Mm,
Netflix's Mulligan, which
yes.
I imagine that must have been a unique experience, especially with how odd of a show that was. But also, like you said,
Right.
correct me if I'm wrong, it was your first chance being a lead animator.
Yes, it was a very big production, very ambitious. And I know the reason I got to be a lead was because we had like brought in a whole lot of extra like animators and our directors were kind of shorthanded. So it was like,
Uh,
I've been here for close to 10 years, time for me to step up. And yeah, so like, I could easily help out and like, calling the shots quite literally. And doing my thing, like making notes and telling people how to make the animation look a little nicer. But no, that was a really neat opportunity to
Good.
for that show.
I mean, it's cool to hear to get that opportunity. It makes me curious though. Aside from your own stuff, I want to say like
Hmm.
based on the existing properties that are out there, is there
Hmm.
a dream job or a dream show that you would love an opportunity just to tinker
Ooh,
in that world, like just to be able to
right.
animate stuff in that world?
Yeah. I know, like, I don't think there's a currently airing show. I know I really wish that I could have been a part of Centaur World. Like, I really enjoyed
Yes.
that one, and it being a Harmony Animation rigged show for a lot of it. Like, I would have fit right in. Could have done so well in that. That would have been like if I could jump back in a time portal. I would have enjoyed working on that show.
I can only
Um,
imagine.
yeah, in general, like granted, I hear like Mercury Filmworks can be a tough place to work at. A lot of the stuff they make is so pretty and so nice looking, and it would be fun to work on one of the shows that they make.
I mean, at the end of the day, it has to be really cool just thinking back to
Hmm.
like just these random shows. I mean, at this point, you've worked in the industry for like you said, like what, close to 10 years at this point. Like really
Yeah.
had a hand into it. It must be really cool some of the opportunities and some of these experiences they've been able to have to really get to this point.
True. Yeah. Like it's just a matter of like kind of sticking around and new stuff comes down the line and sometimes it'll like the shows will end up being neat. It's cool.
And sometimes maybe you have a show that you think it's neat that you decide to bring to reality,
There you go.
which I think is the best way to start. About, obviously you've had, like I said, 10 years in the industry, aside from
hmm
what you may have been learning in school, whatnot. So
hmm
I figured now would be a good time as ever to bring up what you've been able to use that experience and put it into your own product, and that is this incredible animated concept known as Dungeon Flippers.
Yes. Nice.
So,
Um,
so straight up, let me just start by asking this right off the bat. For those who may not know what in the world we are talking about in the first place, first off, come on, it's out there on YouTube. Y'all need to watch at this point. But how would you describe Dungeon Flippers for those who may not have ever heard of it before?
Ooh. Granted, you have to know about letters, but the alphabet. But no, sometimes I like to pitch it as it's D&D meets HGTV.
Yes.
It is a fantasy world, but it is also a real estate show. It is a show about finding homes, making homes, selling homes, but those homes are dungeons and crypts and castles in a fantasy world where monsters live in them. And we follow our heroes going on their many quests to make a home out of old dank crypts and such.
First off, I don't think I've ever heard the term "old dank crypts and such." That is a great phrasing right there. But like, it's a concept that you pitch it. It seems like it's so simple. I'm surprised no one else has thought of it before. So it makes me
Right.
curious. How did you come up with this concept? How did this idea more or less, like,
Ooh.
how did it develop for you?
Right. Let's see. There's a couple different like inception points. I know like probably one of the earliest was I was like maybe been like maybe like 8 or 10 years ago. I was revisiting an old childhood show I watched growing up called David the Gnome.
Okay.
I don't know if you know David the Gnome, but it's based off of like a book where it's just about gnomes and other many things about that gnomes do.
Okay.
Uh, but in the show, they kind of adapted a lot of those like really pretty illustrations into like, hey, it's me, I'm David the Gnome. This is my house. Like, look at this layout plan, like the floor plan of my house, and this is where like the kitchen and how this like the plumbing works, like in my little tree like place that I live, and that combined with like my like I enjoy watching HGTV shows like House Hunters or like Love It or List It and the like fixer upper shows and stuff.
Hmm.
I don't seek them out, but like whenever they're on, I'm always entranced. And so seeing David the Gnome talk extensively about his house and his like how he built it and stuff, I was like, it's like it's like a whole like home renovation show, like or like House Hunters episode, but like about this gnome and his tree and how he has a little trap door to keep the squirrels out. Uh, so that was like, but I noticed that, but didn't think about it too much for a long time later. And later on, like I started playing Dungeons and Dragons a lot.
Okay.
And whenever I do, I like to be like in my mind palace as immersed as possible. Like I always love to smell the smells of the dungeon that we're crawling through, or to like to imagine the cold air of this underground tomb. Um, and then oftentimes you'll open a door and there'll be some orcs who are like sleeping, and I'm like, oh, I forgot this is where they live. Like this is their home. Like this is where they chill out. This is the place that they like reside. And all these like slimes and creatures, like it's like this is the same thing as if some weirdo like burst into my apartment and are trying to loot all my things. It's like I'm sleeping here. Uh,
So
and
like
just yeah,
you like to really get imaginative and really like give a good lived-in experience for your D&D campaigns.
yeah. And so thus it kind of created that sense of like that a dungeon is a place where monsters live. And like that and just yeah like continuing to I think I was like on a treadmill watching Love It or List It and just letting my mind wander and then like a bolt of lightning all the powers combined and I'm like wait a minute what if
It's
we
like
do the same the same kind of routine but with dungeons like
it's like, hold on, wait, let me write this down. Let me write this down. Try to
yeah
get through this half
yeah
mile.
yeah. So like there was that inception moment. Like I think that was where and then just fleshing it out and developing it from that point.
I mean, like I said, it's a concept that seems so simple, but yet it's so brilliant. Like
Mm.
it works well, especially with like you talk about the D&D aspect of it. Because
Yeah,
as someone that I imagine plays a lot, you said you really got into D&D as of late. It's really
yeah.
easy to really get invested in a world like that and really
Hmm.
get an idea of like how a character would react or how things would react or how a place would be. So like really
Yeah,
bringing that to life in this kind of like fun little concept, while also adding the fun little flair of basically making it like a semi home renovation show.
right.
It's so simple, but yet it's so great.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, I know, like, especially with D&D, because, like, as opposed to a lot of, like, D&D type shows, even, like, Harmon Quest and Critical Role and stuff, like, they only show you the exciting parts. Whereas,
Right.
like, if you play D&D often, it's a lot of, like, there's a door, like, well, I'm gonna, like, and you're, like, sitting around the door, like, trying to figure out how to, like, open it effectively. Like, there's a lot of downtime, and, like, I think that's one of the things that I really like about D&D, especially, is that there is a lot of quiet and downtime moments that feel more immersive almost. That's
Mm-hmm.
the immersive part is they're just sitting here at a campsite in the middle of a dungeon and like talking about a bunch of nonsense for a while. It's not the it's not always the high like sword fighting battling a big lich king, but like this the aspect of living, but living in a dungeon.
I mean, yeah, living. I mean, especially with some of the, like you said, the unique circumstances that could be in a
Hmm.
dungeon, which you kind of
Yeah.
illustrate in the pilot alone of like some of the fun opportunities
Hmm.
that you could see in like a dungeon of some sorts. It leaves
Hmm.
so much to the imagination, and so finding a way to connect that with the honestly the fun home renovation shows that you would see on like HDTV. I mean, I also
Hmm.
relate to that whenever you were saying like you don't
Hmm.
seek them out, but like whenever they're on, you're invested for like that 30 minutes that show is on.
Yeah, it's true. Like, yeah, I think it's like that. Like, if it's on like at a restaurant or like, I know like I've heard about like you're at a hotel and you have like an hour to kill. I'll just turn HGTV on. Like I'll come in midway through an episode and see what happens.
For me,
Uh,
it's usually whenever I have to like get my like oil change or like my tire change or
ooh,
whatnot. Like they'll sometimes have that on it at like the place I'm getting to replace that or whatnot. And
mhm.
it's just like yeah no, it's absolutely wow yeah. Former basketball player wants to get a place for him and his wife and his little front in Florida. No, that makes sense. We'll see how it goes. Oh man, they made the garage a basketball court. Okay, I see where you
Yeah,
went
yeah,
there.
yeah. Hmm.
So like obviously like the original idea is one thing and obviously it's a fun
Hmm.
little idea, so how did it eventually devolve or how did it eventually evolve into the
Hmm.
idea that you eventually be, how did we get like the wonderful characters such as like Molly and Cleveland, like how did it develop from there?
Yes. I know like initially, well, I guess let's see. I know like Molly's design particularly, it was just me trying to come up with like a plucky, spunky real estate agent type character, and I was
Mm-hmm.
very kind of just feeling it out as I designed her, which is probably why she doesn't quite look like a regular Manticore. She was kind of, it was almost the what is it, the exquisite corpse of me, like oh, like just kind of just drawing something that felt right, and then I'm like, wait, yes, yes, add the scorpion tail. Now we've got something here. Uh, as those things happen, and I know like I really liked, well, part of the like early ideas of Molly as a character was the idea of her being a real estate agent, a homemaker who doesn't have a home to live in. Originally, she was going to be more like like a constant couch surfer or like a person who can't quite like is constantly evicted for doing things like
uh,
breaking down walls or doing things that like against her HOA standards, basically, and like always being kind of in between homes, but also like selling homes to others. Which may end up happening, but right now I ended up going more with the idea of her like kind of living in ruins and trying to get her like life together. The ruins of her childhood home are kind of a metaphor for her life, and she's trying to get herself together, um, and kind of just yeah, just living with that character and like, her many struggles and challenges, and being this kind of plucky, like a very nice monster in a world where monsters probably aren't quite so nice.
right.
This kind of outsider who sees things very differently from everyone else, and and has those struggles of getting her vision seen, which in the case of like the pilot is quite literal. She has this vision, this magic that like no one else but Cleveland can see, and like trying to figure out ways of expressing your ideas in ways that people can understand.
Right. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but I imagine Cleveland,
Hmm.
you probably more or less developed him to be kind of more like the solid, more concrete foil to
Yes.
to Molly in a way. Just kind of one of those like Molly's like head in the
Mhm.
clouds, like very imaginative, like this is how we don't want to see it.
Yes.
And Cleveland's like, all right, but let's be realistic here for a little bit.
Yes, like yeah, he was very much designed, yeah, to be a foil for Molly. He is very much he knows he has his path, he has the things that he does. He's very like structured and secured in the way his lifestyle basically, and knows what he's doing. And yeah, he's the grounding force, more calm and collected for the most part. They're very much the opposites attract kind of opposite wavelengths, but very compatible, very good friends.
I was gonna say, like, yeah, they might, the opposites attract kind of thing in a way, like the way that they kind of work well with each other. Like Molly
Hmm.
obviously has like the vision of like, I can try to get like what the customers want and like really try to
Hmm.
bring that to reality. While Cleveland is also like, okay, we have these. Let's see if we can make that the vision. Let's see if we can get that to
Right.
be the reality.
Yes. And despite the fact that he may not be like quite as imaginative as Molly, he's still able to like see her vision. They have enough enough clicking that he can like pick up what she's putting down basically,
Absolutely.
and help be that kind of that middleman between her and the client often.
And I have to say, just right off the bat, the people that you have voicing Molly and Cleveland, at least in the pilot
Mm,
alone, really do a good job, really emphasize like embracing and really bringing those characters to life. Like he really picked some good voice actors for that for their roles.
oh, thank you. Yes, Sarah and Casey, like good friends of mine. They hadn't done voice acting before, or
Oh,
well, not professionally. I think Casey had done like a few things once before, but like this was in many ways their first gig.
okay.
They were just close friends who sounded a lot like how I imagined the characters sounding, and like got them in the booth, and they hit their marks. It was great, a lot of fun. But no, they did a really good job of playing those roles.
I mean, I cannot tell you how much I love their character, especially whenever you finally got a chance to release the pilot.
Hmm.
For those who don't know, this past June, you finally got a chance to
Hmm.
release that pilot. But like seeing how they embrace the characters and seeing like the imaginative nature of Molly and stuff like that. I
Hmm.
also gotta give credit to the Ace of Wands, the main
Yes.
emphasize of the main focus of the pilot episode.
Hmm.
Like
Right.
I love this character. I love the Ace
He's
of
so good.
Wands.
No, yeah, yeah, it was great, and like, because he was the one who actually has done voice acting before.
Okay.
Uh, Ryan had, and it was so great because I'd give him the script, and then like a few days later he'd come back with like perfect takes. I'm just like, heck yeah, dude, going straight in the edit with these. These like, he captured it so well, just all the little like vocal intonations and like having that kind of wormy but like spiteful and then often confused character.
The good little nuances that really made the Ace of Wands like really unique, especially for someone that again in the pilot alone, like for this character who has not basically had a place of their own for like 300 years, or at least like is
Hmm.
looking for a
Yeah.
place for the first time in 300 years, and it's like I don't even know what in the world I want. I have
Yeah.
everything.
Yes.
What more could I want?
Right.
Like I think that's like I love that the story alone that you wrote for the pilot is
Mm,
again very simple, but it is very well done. Like just really trying to like emphasize that HGTV mentality of like trying
mhm.
to give the person like the perfect home. It's like was it the
Right.
like I think you did a good job really embracing the two worlds, like really finding a good blend
Mhm.
between the fantasy and the reality of it more than anything else.
Yeah.
And I think a thing that surprised me that I did not anticipate, but I really loved and appreciated was the musical numbers that you added to the pilot. I didn't
Ah,
realize I didn't realize it was gonna be a musical, or at least there was gonna be some musical moments or
mhm.
whatnot. But like they were they were a perfect punctuation to an already great concept more than anything else. Like
Ah,
was the musical numbers like a plan that you initially part of the vision of it, or was that something that like as you more along went along the process, like this would be a nice little touch.
mm, yes. I know even from like the earliest phases, like I've tried pitching this a little bit, the show a little bit, and oftentimes I would include musical in the like genre description.
Okay.
Because in many ways, making Dungeon Flippers, it's always kind of like it's a big stew pot of all the things I like. So I'm just like grabs a handful of musical, like um, toss it in there. I don't think I will be able to keep it as like if I make more episodes, I can't guarantee a song in every episode. But I know for like even in some of my earlier drafts of stories, I would often like songwriting is fun. It turns out I really enjoy writing musical numbers, and I'd written a few even before starting on the pilot. So I really
Okay.
wanted to incorporate those musical elements, and so that's when writing the Ace of Wands script. Like I was like just coming up with what the Ace of Wands theme was, and then using that as a reprise for the climax of the episode.
Right.
It feels it's the I forget it's not quite a Chekhov's gun, but it's a thing when you use it at the beginning of the episode as like a thing and it comes into play later. I forgot what the narrative term for that is.
I mean, I would just
Um,
call it a callback more than anything else, but
yeah, I
like,
called that. But using it as kind of a callback, but with a spin on it, like and having it be the two musical numbers, like it felt right, and I'm glad I made that
oh,
choice.
I agree. You definitely made the good choice. It's kind of like, you remember how at the beginning of the podcast you were talking about how like giving that like wrestler theme thing whenever I introduced you or
Yes,
whatnot, like
yeah,
especially having the Ace of Wands just coming in like in this
with a
majestic
grand
with the
entrance.
grand as entrance with this like majestic beast or whatnot as he enters in or whatnot.
Yeah,
It was a funny little touch, but
yeah,
it was a nice good like little idea of getting us to know the character a little bit more of like how highly
yeah.
he thinks of himself more than anything else.
True, and it's I keep wanting to say it's diuretic. That's something different. When the music comes is played naturally, or like the music comes in naturally. In this case, it is literally him summoning sylphs to sing his theme song, and it being cheesy and over the top felt like a good way of introducing the concept of a musical number in Dungeon Flippers. Um, because I think if you do it without too much prep, it'll come off as a bit strange.
Yeah, it
So
could.
that was, and then so that's using it as a callback later. Like I feel like it it worked.
It really wrapped the story up in a nice little bow with especially how you were able to like I said use the song as a good callback but also as a way to kind of get
Mhm.
us to the resolution of like how
Yes.
how the Ace of Wands was able to get his dream home more than anything else.
Right.
I mean, like I cannot emphasize this enough, but like especially after I saw that pilot, like I it was so I just loved it. That's the long and short of it. I
Oh.
cannot tell you how much I loved it because I was like excited for this thing. Like whenever I first saw the teasers of it on
hmm
one of the indie animation days,
hmm
and then getting to see it come to really fruition. The character interactions I cannot get enough of. The setting, you really did a good job. Like I said, blending the two
hmm
genres together and really giving us like a good setting and a good what's where I'm looking for, like a good original concept that I'm surprised more people have not, if not at least thought of, at least made to fruition. Like seeing this actually
Right.
come to fruition, I can only imagine how excited and proud you are to finally see this thing actually completed and out
Yes.
there for the world.
Oh, yes. To finish anything is like it's one, the most difficult thing to do is to finish something.
True.
Yeah. And then yeah, to actually have finished it, it's wild. Because Lord knows I've come up with a lot of ideas, but never seen them through to the end. Like this, the first, I was like, this time I'm going to actually finish something by thunder. So no, I feel like incredibly like so proud and like happy that like I was able to make this thing, and it has a good story from like that begins and ends. It's very nice.
And another thing that I want to say is I appreciate more or less like how wholesome it honestly felt like watching it more than anything else. Because I mean,
Mhm.
like obviously in today's animation world, like you either get stuff that's like super duper cutesy or super duper adult, to put it mildly, or
Right.
whatnot. And so to find this like good, like I guess middle ground between the two in a way of like just
hmm
a good fun concept that just felt wholesome at the end of the day while still having its good bit of fun or whatnot. Like I felt like you
hmm
did a very good job really making a complete product, and it makes me excited. It makes me excited to finally see it come to fruition. I can only imagine for you, especially seeing how people quickly clung on to it and people
hmm
absolutely loving it, sharing it, the amount of views that the pilot episode has gotten alone up to this point. Like I can only imagine how surreal it must be for you to get this thing done, get it out there, and people loving and appreciating it.
It's so nice. No, yeah, thinking about the maturity level. And I think a lot of that is it's funny. It's almost a response to some of the shows that I've worked on professionally. I think I'm looking particularly at Paradise
Yeah,
PD.
yeah, that's the one I was thinking of whenever you said that.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's just because a lot of the shows, I've enjoyed doing what I do on them. I've worked on a lot of very like gross out like mature adult shows in my day, and like uh, when making Dungeon Flippers, I'm like, what if I didn't do that? What if I made a show that didn't have a whole bunch of offensive humor and swears and like sex jokes, but still have it be good?
Yeah.
Um, and so there, in some ways, there was a little bit of extra incentive for me to try to tell a story that's doesn't overly rely on silly curse words
There you go.
and mature themes, but still tell an emotional story. Uh,
Absolutely. I,
yeah,
I was gonna
and
say,
and to see that, to see that, like, because even there's always the idea. I was thinking about like the reception to it. You see what works for a lot of people. Like, there's the edgy, more like mature stuff. Obviously, there's a big crowd for it. The QCR stuff there is. So no, I was just very relieved to see that like me trying to aim for that middle ground and for people to be like, at last,
yeah.
it's what we wanted all along.
Right. I was gonna say, quick little sidebar. The only reason why
Mhm.
I've even remember Paradise PD was one, my I used to be a fan of it, but it was like whenever I was in the edgy, teen days or whatnot. But
Right,
also,
yeah.
my dad was a big fan of Brickleberry,
Ah,
kind of stuff.
yes.
It's like the show that came before it, and I only remember Paradise PD because one of my favorite YouTubers, a guy by the name of Terrorizer or whatnot, actually has a couple
Hmm.
appearances in it. One
Oh.
I was gonna say one of them is like whenever they're doing like the like basically the storage war s kind of thing or whatnot. Like
Oh, yeah.
he's the one that like reveals the storage units for it or whatnot, and then something
Mm-hmm.
about like being a newscaster for like one bit about like an alien invasion or some weird thing like that. I can't exactly
Yeah.
remember. All I just remember is
Yeah.
that like for him, he's trying to be like a voice actor, so for him it was a big deal. So
Oh, yeah. Okay, nice.
and so like seeing that you had a chance to work on the show, I'm like, oh, okay, that's cool. I wouldn't mind at least mentioning it more than anything else.
Right.
But like obviously, like you said, seeing finding people that love that nice little like middle ground and truly loving and clinging onto it and really like going ahead and making some incredible fan art for it.
Yeah.
Really loving it, appreciating it, and like for example, some people buying the merch or whatnot, which they really need to do. There's some good merch on there. Uh,
Yes.
I can only imagine how excited it must make you not only to have this thing out there, but excited
Hmm.
to really present more to the world. Like it makes me curious.
Right.
Like
Mm.
obviously the pilot is done. It's out there.
Hmm.
What's
Yes.
next?
Oh, yes. Uh, Thinking like plankton. I didn't think I'd get this far. Uh, but no, it is I'm very much in that strange limbo zone of like, I'm pulling some strings to try to see about getting this seen by networks or stuff to get it picked up.
Okay.
Would be cool. I'm also like planning for a potential like episode 2 Kickstarter.
Okay.
I'm feeling out how the merch sales are doing. Either way, I'm writing scripts and coming up with like what stories I want to tell next and planning out things. Because I've got a lot of kind of lore, character arcs, and like narrative pathways to work with. I've written a lot of stuff for Dungeon Flippers in the past few years. It all comes down to what can I squeeze into a 15-minute block. Um,
Right.
and if I'm doing this one episode at a time, like how much can I? Because I don't want to fall for that trap of like doing a lot of setup for something and then only being able to produce that one episode of worth of setup, where
Right.
it's like, all right, we have this big gig to be continued next time, and then like that's the end. Like, so if I'm doing the indie route, I almost have to try and keep things self-contained with little nuggets of narrative building in the background.
Right.
But all that to say, I'm testing out the waters on a lot of different sides and seeing what sticks.
I mean, I imagine for you, like either way, whichever way you're able to
Hmm.
have this thing run, whether it be trying to get this like picked up by a studio and
Hmm.
seeing what they're able to help you really make to fruition, or really
Right.
going the indie route and really
Hmm.
helping make sure that he actually gets to that point. Like it led me to it leads me to a question I wanted to ask a little sooner that I just forgot or
Hmm.
whatnot.
All
Like
good.
was there a reason why you decided to go immediately or go with the indie route for at least the pilot episode? Like, was that always just like
Mm,
the plan for you, or is it like was that just kind of how things went out? Like, I didn't know how well you pitched this to other
right.
places before getting the pilot going.
Hmm. Right. Now I did try pitching this originally, I think only to one place, and it was very quickly shot down.
Okay,
Yeah, and in general, like even trying to find, like you have to have like representation to like even get your foot in the door. You have to find an agent to like break the door down for you, basically, for a lot
right,
of this stuff. And a lot of times to do that, you almost have to prove yourself a little bit. and it just didn't seem to quite go anywhere. And I kind of already knew how to do all the different phases of production for the most part, or if not, I knew people who could. And I just wanted to make something out of it. So that's when I started really doing the indie route and planning for it. I think originally I was doing like a really big, almost like 4 minute long trailer. A lot of the early test footage bits you find are like were me trying to make this really big like pitch concept. And about halfway through, I'm like, I could just be making an episode.
True.
Like the amount of time and effort, I could be telling a story instead of just weaving together like pretty looking shots. So about halfway through that, I was like shifted full tilt into like pilot production, like writing everything down and coming up with boards and designs and stuff.
Okay, okay. No, honestly, that makes sense more than
Mhm.
anything else. I mean, I can only imagine, especially for you, once you really went full in with the indie animation route and like
Mhm.
really going forth and providing it to the world. It must have been really cool to see this thing come to fruition, but also to really get yourself immersed in that indie animation community and seeing the people that were
Yes,
willing to help and support you along the way.
definitely. I know, like, yeah, like just the past year or two, really making friends with a lot of different other people making things. Because I know, like in the industry, a lot of folks they do animation for a job, but then they'll go home and just play video games or stuff like that. So it was neat to like in the indie sphere to really like finding other passionate people who are trying to tell stories and through animation and making things. Finding that kind of camaraderie is so nice.
I mean, I was gonna say it's partially because of the indie animation industry that we got the chance to meet each other
True.
in real life at MomoCon. In
Yeah,
fact,
that's right.
I still it was an absolute honor and a blast to really get to meet you and get to see you in
Oh,
person. You did a wonderful little photo with the lovely little Nemo right here.
yes. Ah, so cute.
Absolutely, he will forever haunt me, but I will appreciate
Mm.
it. Because I mean, he's a little demon goat. I mean, how can I not?
Oh, yeah.
Uh,
Yes.
but regardless, like it's really cool, especially seeing, like I said, the reception that people had. I'm glad that I'm not the only one that really loved and enjoyed this. I'll put it like that, because like people, if they had
Yes.
people like they instantly flocked to it. How many? Correct me if I'm wrong. You got like what, close to at least 700,000, maybe close to a million views when it comes to the pilot episode alone.
Yeah, and that's only in the past 3 weeks, I think.
Yeah.
So it's doing much better than I was expecting.
And it should definitely be a lot more. Like I said, if people have not,
Yeah.
they need to check out the
No.
pilot. Links to that will be in the description below. Trust me, I got you. But like, and of course, you also need the support, because if you want to see more of the Dungeon Flippers, again, really good merch. In fact, one
Yeah.
of the big things that I saw is like the Molly plushie, which it looks absolutely amazing. Hey, there it is, with the scorpion tail. Yes.
Yes.
Oh
Right.
goodness. Oh man, like it's like, I know you kind of said that you're kind of keeping an eye on like the merch sales or whatnot, but I imagine,
Mhm.
especially with like a cool world like this fantasy setting, like
Mhm.
it could be really easy to make merch if if you get more opportunities to tell more stories.
It's true. Well, yeah, like I love the idea, especially if I can find a way to merchandise like items or objects that happen like that are in the show. I know like in an earlier draft of where is it?
Oh,
Here. We go grab it real quick.
all right, folks, we're gonna see something incredible. Let's see what we got here. Oh, oh, what do we got? What do we got?
Oh, but in an earlier draft of the boards, there was a scene where Cleveland was like drinking from a cup that said
Flipping
"flipping"
and
and sipping
sipping.
on
That's
it,
right.
which is on the merch site. But no, like the idea of shamelessly having the characters using things that could be purchased
I mean,
potentially.
I feel like that would go in line with the whole entire HGTV aspect of it, because it's not like
True,
they're not trying to like show their own merch based off of the shows that they're promoting or whatnot. So
right? And like yeah, I think about like was it Chip and Joanna Gaines with the Magnolia Network? Like this, and if you go into a Target, like there's a whole bunch of decor items that are from their line of stuff. Um, like the idea of there being like an IKEA section that is dungeon themed, where it's like you want the bone chandelier, like like here it is.
oh, I need that needs to be like a future episode idea of like, we have this one place, we need to really renovate it. Let's go to, I don't know, like
I like in general IKEA. I would have like a whole episode about IKEA because it is quite literally a dungeon. Like it's a maze that you have to navigate through. There are little shortcuts and secrets.
Yes,
There's like,
we must go to the key of I in order to get more furniture.
yes, the key of I, or a minotaur roams through the labyrinthine passages. The idea of it being like a dump that humans have thrown like different furniture away, but then this like these monsters take it and repurpose it into like nice looking furniture.
I feel like it would be like a gremlin or a gnome that would be the one to like
Yeah,
refurbish
like
that into
tinkering away.
Write that down. Write that down.
All these like all the archaic names for all the different all the different things they got, like the Flurgenslarf, the Zingelhoff.
Yes. What would be
Definitely sounds very gnomish, honestly.
What would be like the equivalent of like the blaha or whatnot, like the stuffed shark?
Or
Like
the shark. Ooh, would it just be a taxidermied shark?
just an actual taxidermy
Actual shark. Yes.
Yes, yes. Oh goodness! All right, now you're making me even more excited.
Oh, no, yeah. There's so much so much potential and room for fun stuff like that.
And all we're waiting for people is just for you guys to help really like make this a reality one way or another.
Yes.
Like at the very least, like I said before, going for the merch or whatnot definitely helps a lot. Especially that cool like the flipping and sipping mug. Like it's definitely got to show up in a future moment at some point.
Yeah,
Like it has to be there.
Gotta show up at some point.
Absolutely. But like regardless, like thinking back to the whole entire process of like making dungeon flippers or whatnot, like I can at the end of the day, like I can only imagine how satisfying it must be for you to present this idea into the world for people to absolutely love it and want more of it.
Oh yes, it's really great. Because it is so much of me I poured into this, and also like doing a lot of the different phases of production myself to be like, if there's a compliment, a lot of times I guess not for the voices, but like the animation's great. I'm like
Yeah.
or like the lighting and like a lot of these things like hooray, or the songs like to put so much of myself on, I'd say onto the page, but onto the film, and see people like responding well to it is no, it's a fantastic feeling.
Absolutely. I was gonna say, like, at least for me, the main thing that sold me is just the story of it. Like, obviously, like the characters are really cool and unique or whatnot, but
Yeah.
like, especially the story of that first episode and how we eventually got from like our initial issue of trying to find this place a home to how we eventually got to that solution and like that really
Yes.
deep thoughts, and especially like the touching little piece at the end of like Molly really like getting a start for her own home as well and really trying to make that like a further thing, really setting up that story for what could potentially be told in the future. Like
Yes.
I thought you wrote a very well story for that first episode. It makes me excited to see what more you're gonna be writing in the future.
Thank you. Because it's one of those things like I think there is like one other fantasy real estate thing that exists, like this anime. I've only seen one episode of it, but like the thing is like the idea of a fantasy real estate show, which is so much fun, it could very easily become like a one note, like one joke kind of scenario.
Right.
If you don't have characters who have a lot of issues to work through, or arcs and stories that like and characters who feel believable, to keep that going on in the background, having both that nice consistent like baseline of real estate in a fantasy world, but also having a good story and characters and world to back it up is like super important. So I'm glad I got to like plant those seeds and thread those threads a little bit.
Absolutely, absolutely. Although I will say, when it comes to the script, there was one moment that I thought was going to happen that didn't happen. I'm glad it didn't happen, but it's one of those. So obviously, at the very end, the Ace of Wands, gets the place, and obviously, gives the, gives Cleveland, obviously, the big bag that he's always wanted or whatnot. I thought it would have been hilarious is as soon as the portal went away, so did the money. Like that was something that the Ace of Wands like conjured.
They got tricked.
Like, yeah, they got that. Like that was the thing that he conjured up as part of the
right. Yeah, he could have just magicked away. That would have been funny. It definitely would have been like guy. But no, yeah.
I'm glad it ended on the more wholesome note. But like I said, I just thought like that would have been a fun like little alternate ending of just being like, okay, he's got his home. Hey, wait.
Feel like,
where's
the money?
He's really smart about that realm we had just sold him to, didn't he?
Yeah. I think like one of the things I'm really hoping to do a little bit, granted I don't want to be too preachy, but like the idea of the clients often being kind of renovated, or them kind of going through these motions of like in-house hunting, they learn more about themselves and like Granted, he's Ace of Wands is still gonna go like terrorize and cause mayhem, but like he's a little less evil than he was at the beginning,
Right, right.
through the experiences. Like I don't expect Molly to like completely reform every evil bad guy in Splendor, but like the idea of making of spreading a little goodness, a little
As well as that, we do not only renovate houses, we renovate lives.
yes, yes, yes. A
uh,
renovator of people.
Absolutely, and like it's really cool to see what you've been able to do this, and it makes me really excited to see what you're planning on doing next. Whether it be
Hmm.
finally getting a studio to jump on board for this,
Hmm.
and or at the very least, like if you're able to go the indie route, like people are gonna be more than happy to be on board and really see this thing come to fruition. Which
Right.
which I'm sincerely hoping for. I'm hoping that a lot more people, whether it's
Yes.
be because of this episode or otherwise, love this concept enough to where they really want to see this thing come to fruition. But for
Hmm.
this next question, if I may, what if we
Ooh.
think about that what's next, and maybe even a
Mm.
little bit more above and beyond, and give you more or
Hmm.
less the dream scenario, if I may?
Dream
Let's
scenario.
say I am Big Shot Mr. Moneybags. I come to you and like, look,
Ooh.
Travis, we've seen what you've been able to do. Like professionally, you've done a lot of incredible
Mm.
things, and personally, Dungeon Flippers, really, really, fantastic. We know that there's more you can do. You just need a little extra push, extra platform, really get you up to
Mm.
that point.
Hmm.
We have access to everyone and anyone in whatever industry possible, and more money than there should be possible. We really should be making sure that the animators are compensated, especially for the fact that strike is coming up really, really soon, and they
Hmm.
really
Yep.
should
Yep.
be
Yep. Yep.
compensated. Also, we'll focus on them in a little bit. We promise. We promise. We promise. Right
Hmm.
now, we are
This is
focused.
all the scenario. This is all the perfect
Yes,
scenarios.
this is the perfect scenarios.
Everyone's getting paid well. Everyone's having a good time.
The animation guild is getting everything that they are looking for with the upcoming contract
Hmm.
discussions. Like we'll get that taken care of. Right now, we are focusing on you and you alone.
Hmm.
If given this opportunity, what would be the dream Travis Fowler project?
Ooh, I think it would definitely be several several seasons of Dungeon Flippers at least.
Okay.
Because that's one of the things like that pushes me towards trying to pitch it is like I want to be able to like have a good like season arc or two, and to tell a lot of these interesting stories. Um, I think honestly, just having two or three seasons greenlit, and not get removed before they air. Um,
Absolutely. Absolutely. Like I said, dream
um,
scenario. Whatever you.
dream scenario, and then maybe like a movie or something. So
There you
let's do
go.
the 7 seasons in a movie.
There you go.
Uh, yeah, go.
The,
That I think that would be the ultimate scenario. I'd say.
this isn't some sort of like mimic thing. Like this is like we're making this to reality. Okay.
Right, right. We're manifesting.
There you go. We're basically taking whatever Molly imagines and just bringing it to
Yes.
reality. Okay.
Mm, yes.
No, absolutely. Like, especially with like, we were joking about, it, but like, I think one of the best things about those like HGTV shows is like how easy it is
Hmm.
for like all those scenarios to be presented and played out. So like,
Yeah.
with a show like yours, especially with how unique of a cast you could have with all the different, fantasy creatures
Yes.
and like all their different
Hmm.
scenarios and all their different struggles and like what exactly they're looking for, it's very easy to get several seasons of this concept like really out there into the world.
Yes. You can almost like get your D20 out, roll like it's gonna be a goblin looking for a duplex.
Goblin looking for a duplex.
Um, Granted, I wouldn't want to be too predictable, but no, yeah, like the idea that there's a lot of room to play with for just the baseline alone, and then like add the different shenanigans that you can get into, like both fantasy and slice of lifey kind of things coalescing and colliding, and then throw in some like some overarching narrative in the mix, like it's got a lot of room for things.
Absolutely, absolutely. But sadly, we gotta get down from the dream scenario. We gotta get
I
back
gotta
to
climb
reality.
down.
Yep, we gotta get back to reality. And I'll ask the ever so generic question: where do you hope to see yourself, say, 5 to 10 years from now?
Ooh, 5 to 10 years. Let's see. What year is it now? It's
It's 2024
it's gonna be in 2029.
or 2034, either or.
Or 20. Oh yeah, yeah. True. I mean, it would be so cool to be able to be a show like to be like because honestly, Dungeon Flippers is such my passion and such my dream world. To be able to be a showrunner on it and have it be like reach that syndication point of where it just kind of reaches not quite that Simpsons level, but you know what I mean,
No,
where
I
it's like
get you.
where it becomes an existent enough property that I can just kind of keep playing around in this world and dream up fun things for these characters to go through, and not have to worry about making it happen, but just rolling with it. Um, oh yeah, I forgot. I know I'm still in the dream zone. I need to be a bit more practical, because in 5 years, because animation takes a long time.
True.
Uh, More realistically, I mean, similarly, if I could, I'd love to see myself at least to be a person with good ideas and the skills to back it up. Hopefully, staking some claim into getting things off the ground a little easier. Um, if not working on dungeon flippers in my free time, then full time or something or the other. I definitely don't want to give it up because
Good.
I'm doing well with it and I enjoy doing it. Um, I'd hope that 5 years from now, just keeping on to be keeping on doing it. I think would be good.
I think that's a good thing to strive for more than anything, especially with how, like I said, people are already seemingly enjoying it right now, just the first step.
Hmm.
So who knows however many steps you'll
Right.
get to by the time we get to 2029 or whatnot, and how much further you've
Hmm.
been able to go with it. Because
Right.
it seems like you could have a lot of fun with this concept, and that's the thing that I'm
Hmm.
excited about. It almost makes you curious. Like I know we kind of focus on dungeon flippers, but is there any other concepts that you'd like to like maybe toy or tinker around with at some point in the future?
Ooh, I know. Like, it's funny enough. The idea I was kind of shopping around before making Dungeon Flippers was a wrestling cartoon. You mentioned the wrestling thing
Oh,
early, and
okay.
that's probably what I was thinking about the entrance theme. Because the last one I was working on or playing around with was an idea for like a show called Rough and Tumble, which was like kind of like a Gretzko or Zootopia meets like WWE. So it's a lot of
Okay.
like animal wrestling. um, but and that world still is a lot of fun for me. Um, I do seem to gravitate towards fantasy a lot. Even some of my earlier ideas are like are fantasy themed.
I mean, because
But same,
I'll say we
yeah,
illustrated it earlier with like how much you love toying around with that fantasy world, so I could easily see why
true.
your concepts could be based in that
Yeah,
reality.
yeah. But who knows? Like in truth, like I haven't done very much with science fiction before.
Ooh.
I bet if I tackled a different genre, I could probably enjoy it more than I think I would. Um, I think yeah, if this were an alternate universe where I had to suddenly like I was given $1 million and needed to work on a very different project, like I don't know, the sci-fi could be fun.
Interesting. Interesting. Maybe maybe make dungeon
Sci-fi
flip.
wrestling
I was at either sci-fi wrestling or dungeon flippers in space.
in space. Yes, we have to find a whole new planet to live on.
There's a satellite floating in the distance.
Yes.
As we start to wind down the interview, I just have one last question I want to ask you, Travis. Obviously,
Okay.
you're deeply entrenched in art in one way or another. I mean,
Hmm.
you've gotten to this point, you've gotten to do some cool opportunities and create your own incredible opportunities as well. How important is art, not just for you, but for the world as a whole?
Oh, it's so important. Uh, yes, I feel like as an artist, I feel like art's the most important thing ever.
True.
But no, yeah, I feel like to make for a person to make art, it really like it takes you deep inside of yourself. It's such a great way of like self exploration and self expression. I know in this world of ours, so often we have to like conform to standards or to fit in a way, but with art and self-expression in the art space, like it gives you that freedom to do or be whatever you want to be, um, and to do that in the wonderful play space of be it a drawing or animating or making music or dancing or anything like it gives you that chance of yeah to self-explore and to express in a way that the rest of the world doesn't seem to quite have a place for. And then also like especially seeing people being inspired by dungeon flippers, it reminds me how much I think it's important as an artist to inspire people, to help people be inspired to express or make art in their own way, like to take an idea or an inspiration and to either build off of it or use it in a way that's like constructive for themselves to express things that that you can't express. Like it's a very important thing. I think this art stuff.
I think that is a wonderful thing to emphasize, and that's a wonderful way to word it, if I do say so myself.
Ah,
Travis, that is all the questions I have for you today. I've already showered you with a whole bunch of praise, but I'm going to show you a little bit more because it's my podcast. I do what I want.
yay!
Like I said a million times before, whenever I first saw this concept during one of the indie animation days, I believe it was one of the Kickstarter ones, maybe, or maybe the one
Hmm.
right beforehand or whatnot.
Right.
I I instantly fell in love with it
Mm.
because, again, for such simple idea, the way that you were able to present it and execute it, like it genuinely works. It's a really cool concept that I'm glad you brought to fruition. I mean, seeing the way you were able to execute it, that pilot was absolutely amazing. What I expected and then some, and it's really exciting to see this world like really come to life. It's really exciting to see these characters really fleshed out and really animated. And it makes me excited to see what's more, especially getting the opportunity to talk to you right now, getting the chance to really
Hmm.
learn more about like where you come from and what you have for this or whatnot.
Hmm.
I cannot help but just stay excited for this concept. It was legitimately one of, if not like one of the top three like indie
Whoa.
animated projects that I was excited to see like really come to fruition. Like
Wow.
I cannot tell you like how excited I cannot tell you how excited I was to like really see you go forth with it. And now that you got that first step in the door and like you're really
Hmm.
presenting a really good case, it makes me excited to see what further steps you're gonna take and where you can take this, because it just has me excited, the long and short of it. And I will be rooting for Dungeon Flippers. I will be rooting for you for whatever you're going to be doing from here on out, because I know with the world that you have at hand, with the ideas that you're toying around with, and with the fun creative way that you like to go forth and present this stuff, I know you can do some incredible stuff with this, and it makes me just excited at the end of the day. Thank you for what you do. Thank you for really putting yourself out there and putting this little fun thing out there for the people to love and enjoy. And I sincerely hope that if people, for the people that haven't, they get an opportunity to see this, they get to be rooting alongside you, because I know I'm going to be rooting for you every single step of the way with whatever you're doing next.
Ah, oh my gosh, that's so good. Thank you so much. That's amazing.
I'm just speaking from the heart. I'm just being
Oh.
true to you right here. I only speak truths right now.
Oh.
No need to do some sort of deception check or whatnot. Like I'm being truthful here.
Mm. Rolling for insight.
There you go. There you go. Now, if people want to know why exactly I've been gushing about this for the past hour or so, go ahead and plug your stuff for the people at home.
All right, so I'm the pilot episode is on YouTube. If you look up Dungeon Flippers, it should be one of the first things that show up. I'm also on I still call it Twitter.
Yep.
Um,
I still do too. Don't worry.
at yeah, I think everyone does at Travis Fowler 31. That usually gets you to a lot of my socials. And then I have the merch page at on my Fourth Wall account. If you look up Fourth Wall and Dungeon Flippers, it should show up on Google. Where there's lots of shirts and hats and this plushie for a limited time. Um, but yes, those are my main plugs.
There you go. And if you missed any plugs, I'll be sure to have them in the link below. I got you
Yeah,
covered.
that's all good.
Or I got in the description below. I got you covered. The words are wonderful, aren't they?
Yes.
Do you have any final words before we sign out?
Ooh, final words. Keep on building.
Keep on building.
Yes,
And with that, all I've left to say is, for the people at home, if you can, please pay your artists.
it's important. Gotta stay alive.
Tell me what's wrong, tell me sparks in motion. Sing me a song, tell me your eyes can all open. Show me it all, pick me up in the car you drove when you used to call. Show me it all.
Thank you so much for sticking around to the end. If this is your first time listening, I genuinely do appreciate it. Like I said in the intro, Dungeon Flippers was legitimately one of like the top 3 shows that I was excited about in the indie sphere. So to see that pilot and to see just how fun and imaginative it was, it made me excited to get Travis on this podcast. And Travis, if you've gotten up to this point, sincerely thank you for taking the time to do this, whether it be the podcast itself or taking the time to create the thing that you love. You know, it's guests like Travis that makes me excited for Indie Animation Day. You know, I love seeing new projects that I may have never heard about before, or I like seeing the progress of projects that I get so excited and just excited and hyped about. That's the word I was looking for. It makes me ecstatic to see what else is being produced out there, especially in a time like right now. At the time that I am recording, the Animation Guild has just gone to contract talks in order to see if they can get a better deal for themselves. And if you can, go out there and find ways to support those people, because those people are, you know, as cool as it would be to have everyone do their own thing, their indie thing, especially in a business like this, they need solid income, they need health care, they need to make sure, they need benefits, they need everything. Especially in an industry like this, to where year after year, animation is making millions, if not billions upon billions of dollars. And yet, the people that make a reality, the people that put in their blood, sweat, and tears, love and passion for this stuff, get short-ended every single time. That's why we need to show support to animation as a whole. Support the indie people for going out there and really chasing that passion and really relying on the community to bring their love and passion to life. That's why I love chatting with Travis, because I could tell that he had a true love and passion for this project, and to really see it being brought to light with just that first episode and to only imagine where it can go from there. It makes me excited. So definitely support the indie people, but also support the people that are striking. Support that Animation Guild. Support the people that are in the industry, because they absolutely need it more than ever. They need that support to show the big companies that, hey, give these guys just the bare essentials more than anything else. It doesn't have to be like they're going to be the next millionaires, but like just make sure that they can live doing the thing that they love. Make sure that they can get benefits and such, that they can get a solid, make sure they can pay rent. That's very important, especially if they want to continue creating these multi-billion-dollar blockbusters. Support the strike wherever you can. I'll have some links in the description for some Twitter accounts to where you can be able to keep up with that kind of stuff. I know, what is it, Animation Workers United, I think it's a really good one. I think that's who they are. I'll be sure to have at least a link or two in the description below to see how you can show that support and stand with animation. Stand with animation on all fronts. Stand with animation on the indie front, so that the people that are truly chasing that can live out those dreams and really showcase the world the creative vision that they have in mind. And stand with animation for the workers that are taking the risk day by day to make sure that they can live doing what they love. Stand with animation.